Hello, welcome to another episode of Playing Telephone. Welcome to another episode of Playing Telephone. I'm Scarlett Sanchez.
I'm Dennis Kluba.
How was your weekend, Kluba?
It was good. Well, it was okay. I had a flight to Chicago at 6 a.m. Saturday for a wedding. Shout out cousins. It was delayed two hours. To 8. I missed the ceremony because of wind in Chicago. Nothing new there, weather. But I did make it for the party. And that's what's important. I was there. I celebrated. I came back 1 p.m. Sunday, and I got back at 4 p.m.
It was a very, very quick flight. But you're on the plane with Sydney Sweeney, weren't you?
She was in the airport.
Okay.
I wasn't on the plane with her. We made eye contact though.
Sighting.
Well, she was with her. I think it's their fiancés. They're not. But yeah, it was very clearly her. We made eye contact. I don't think she recognized me, but she could have.
She might have.
She probably did.
I mean, if the look was lingering, it's possible.
It was lingering for sure. She also, or not her, but on the plane coming back to LA, somebody projectile vomited.
I saw your story
Before we took off. So then it was a 20-minute delay.
Did it reek?
I just tried to
cover
put it out
up.
of my mind.
Yeah.
Turn on midnights.
That's when the masks do come in handy.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this is not for me. So needless to say, I made it back okay, and I partied. How was your weekend?
It was good. My mom was in town. We, just went, ate some good food, had some good wine. Oh, and I got a tattoo.
You did.
Check it.
It looks good.
Thanks.
Yeah, it does.
And honor my grandpa. So yeah.
Wow.
Everything
Emotional
was good,
weekend.
though. Yeah, we cried a lot. No.
Speaking of crying a lot,
I know.
a hero of the early 2000s passed away this past Friday. Or like, we think it happened Friday into Saturday.
Yes.
Aaron Carter, brother of Nick Carter and kind of like child pop star, pop
we were
sensation.
just listening to
Aaron's House.
I Want Candy.
Yeah, I Want Candy is a classic as well. But yeah, it was actually super sad. He's had on and off battles with drug addiction and I don't know about anything else, self-harm or anything like that, but alcoholism and stuff like that. And then he'd been in and out of rehab a couple of different times and just kind of we don't really know exactly what the toxicology report is yet.
They found his body in a bathtub at his home in Lancaster. And they came the day before on Friday to do a welfare check. Unclear of who called the cops or who had called to give this tip to him. But I guess the housekeeper came and knocked on the door and he told them he didn't want anybody in there. Just tell them to leave and said, leave me alone too. And that was around 2 a.m. on Friday. So then the housekeeper, she's a stay-in housekeeper, and she didn't see him all day Friday. And then Saturday morning came around and she went to go see if he wanted coffee. I guess that's something she did every morning. And she heard the dog barking just uncontrollably. Yeah. So she went inside, found him in the bathtub, obviously called 911. When the cops came, the bathtub, like the color was discolored and everything. There was smells. So they had thought that it was probably on Friday that he had passed. But they did find cans of, what's it called?
Gas, compressed air.
Yeah, cans of compressed air and some prescription pills too in his bedroom and in the bathroom. But like you said, they still have to do a toxicology report and really find out like what the true results are. But right now it's considered an accident. Yeah,
which could take months. And there were no signs of like foul play. Like it wasn't like anything happened, outside of himself. But we don't know if it was from drowning or from like, an overdose prior and then fell into the bathtub or something like that, right? The jets were still on, like that's so like it wasn't like he was taking a soak, like it was like just passed away or passed out while the water was running. Which is super sad. And we saw obviously an outpouring of people that were talking about Aaron.
Hilary Duff, Paris Hilton,
Lindsay Lohan, his brother, who was on tour with Backstreet Boys at the time in London, which they did a tribute to him.
And he cried on stage and everything too.
Yeah. I think the thing too that people don't really understand, and we'll go into kind of like his fame as a kid, but also a lot of, I think, the drug addiction and troubles that he had came from a lot of the stuff that happened. This is kind of, I didn't think about this pairing before, but a lot of his parents taking ownership of his career as a child and ultimately put him into like he made, I saw a video that said he made like upwards of $25 million at a very young age. But it was still under that same rule that Britney was kind of under, or whatever those kids are under, where a certain amount is supposed to go into like a savings account. But they spent a lot of it and then actually put him into debt at a young age. So they had a strained relationship from a young age that, I mean, I can only imagine that type of fame at such a young age. Your parents basically betraying you.
Yeah.
And just like what kind of toll that takes on you mentally, emotionally.
Yeah. And he had broken relationships with some of his siblings too, also with Nick Carter. And then at one point, even his twin sister Angel had a restraining order against him.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of family issues that had gone on, but he'd actually been recently, he was working on a sitcom. He had just finished up the pilot. So that's still going to air. It's called The Group, and it's focused on mental health advocacy. It's supposed to be like them doing group sessions. So that's still going to air, and it's going to be in dedication to him. He was also working on an album, and I guess he'd reached out recently to Nick and was really trying to mend their relationship. And he was the inspiration for, getting back into music. So he'd been in the studio, had been recording. So I wonder if we'll have some new music from him too.
That could be, yeah.
But just sad to see, like, obviously he'd gone through so much in his life, and then it just always seems like right when they're
postmortem.
Yes, right when they're just kind of trying really hard and seem to be really in a good place. He'd also been in a really good place with his fiance, Melanie Miller, who they had issues on and off again relationship too. They just recently had their son Prince, dealing with custody battle with that too. Actually, her mom has sole custody of their baby. So he was working towards getting back more custody, visitation rights and everything like that. So I feel like he was really like working on improving himself. And then unfortunately this had to happen.
Yeah, it was really sad. And I think the other thing that people don't realize is he's kind of been in this slump or these strained relationships for 10 years, I'd say 10, 12 years, like kind of had this, difficulty. But I can remember growing up and he was like, I said this to Scarlett earlier, he was kind of Disney's like Justin Bieber kind of esque kind of guy. And he was obviously brothers with Nick. And so we already knew that like he like already had kind of that pedigree coming out. And so Disney kind of stuck him on shows that were popular as like that cameo kid. And like, I remember Lizzie McGuire had like a Christmas special.
Yes.
And he like came in and did I Want Candy. But like somehow the episode was Lizzie like got to be on the set of that music video. And like, he just looked so cool to the 8-year-olds. Yeah, exactly. Of the world, that we're watching Disney Channel at that time. And then we were just playing before we got on Aaron's house, which was, of course, this 10 or 12-year-old kid that threw a party and their parents weren't home.
Relatable.
Yeah. Well, it's like at some point we've all kind of done that. But at the same time, like it was just like he was very cool at a very young age. And to see kind of what happened in his career was super sad. Yeah. But now, looking back, I kind of just forgot how awesome he was.
Really cool he was, yeah.
Yeah, and like who knows what kind of career he could have had, if he could have kind of figured that out a little bit more. And like you said, this unreleased music, this unreleased pilot, like who knows what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's
such a young age too. I mean, we just had a huge death with Takeoff too, and then now this one.
In threes. Don't they say that?
Yeah, they
that's
do.
Gonna happen. Uh-oh. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, and it's kind of funny that we were getting into the Disney Channel stars because you and me, we sat down, we watched Selena Gomez's documentary. What is the actual title of that?
My Mind and Me on Apple TV Plus.
So that came out on Friday. November the 4th or something like that. So we watched it last night.
Had some wine. We're just ready to get into it. I've been looking forward to it a lot.
Yeah, we have been talking about it ever since Haley went on.
Right.
Call Her Daddy. We knew that this was coming. We had already said that Haley was getting out in front of things.
Damage control, just trying to beat her to it, which doesn't really seem like she needed to
anymore.
Because did they even really mention Justin Bieber? The only time Justin Bieber's name came
remotely
came up was when they were talking about different headlines, or paparazzi asked her questions like, oh, what happened with Justin Bieber? Are you guys back together? Are you guys not? So she never fully addressed their romance at all. Even at one point, remember they asked her what song reminds you of being in love, and she didn't even really have one. But she did mention about going through the hardest breakup of her life. But essentially it really did focus on her mental health, how she would just spend days and days in bed, and how she was trying to confront her bipolar disorder and what her days look like. Yeah. Her revival tour, that ended up getting canceled after doing 55 shows, which 55 shows is already a lot. And that was only halfway through. So then that's when she ended up checking into, facility for mental health.
Yeah, it was like a mental health facility. So yeah, I think that the message was really good, but I also felt that it was very much geared towards things that she wanted to advocate for, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying that she has done great things for like mental health and all that stuff, and being so open about, like we said, her battles with mental health and lupus, stuff like that. Let's put all that aside.
No question about that.
Very good.
Still a fan of Selena Gomez. Did we love this documentary?
No, it was very bad. And I think that the sad part is that there was something about me that thought that her being really kind of an icon that we know has gone through these battles, and then Apple TV doing it, I was like, this is going to be good. I don't know that it's going to be juicy, but it's going to be good. And I think that it failed on both.
And that's what you're saying. There was no juiciness to it, really.
No.
We didn't get any details on her relationship. Kind of had more questions about her relationship with her parents, her family.
Who's this best friend?
Raquel. Raquel had just as much screen time as Selena.
Super odd. Let's run through all of it. Okay, so number one, we start off, we have questions automatically about her relationship with her mom and with her. We know that they split up at a very young age, and they had her at a very young age. Her mom is in the doc for a second, but then also you noted and said that her mom says she didn't want anything to do with me, didn't want to hear about it, while she's going through these really, really difficult times. Yeah. And not once after that did we see her call her mom or be like, hey, I'm going through this. Can you help me? Can you fly out to Boston because there was one part where she talks about her lupus was coming back, and she had to do a treatment where she'd be in the hospital for about 5 hours. She said it's pretty aggressive. It's painful when you do it. And I was just a little bit shocked. Maybe this is just me coming from my relationship with my mom. I just imagine my mom would absolutely be there. Yeah. And I understand that she has younger siblings, half siblings, and a stepbrother too. But I still feel like I thought her mom would be there. And they've had their ups and downs in their relationships. Yeah, fair. But they ended up still partnering up in other ways too later in life too. So, and also she goes through in the documentary in notes, I wouldn't be where I'm at without my friends and family. She goes through many times to say that she's grateful for her family. Yet we rarely see the biggest parts that we see, which might have been the most cringe parts, were her going back to Texas and revisiting old homes and family friends. But it felt very staged. Very. And it was this is not candid. Yeah, and there would always be people outside that were there to see her, but how would you know that she was going to be there at that time? Right. And kind of just manufacturing these relationships that I have no doubt existed, but the way that they edited it and showed it felt very uncomfortable. Yeah. I believe totally you know her. But why does it not feel like they're close? It didn't feel genuine. No, it didn't feel genuine at all. And honestly, she moved to LA at a young age. She booked Barney when she was 7 years old. So that was in Dallas though. So she was able to still be in the Texas area until she booked Wizards of Waverly Place, which was obviously much bigger too. Well, bigger in different ways. I feel like that really truly launched her solo career too. Yeah. So maybe that, played a role. I completely, The Cole Sprouse. We were trying to figure out the timelines too, because she had Cole Sprouse. I love Cole Sprouse on the walls and everything in her room. Weird. Okay. Moving on from that, the in-between parts and takes were very uncomfortable as well. This narration was very the handwritten notes. Odd.
And I thought they were grabbing from old music videos, but then Dennis, you pointed out that
it was the same throughout. It felt like it was like
this was this for the doc.
But all of those things were kind of oddly sexual. That's I mean, it was like one was like in a bath and like coming out of the bath.
Out of the bath.
And it was kind of like, but it was about mental health and like about finding herself, and it was kind of like, this is awkward.
And then even her trip to Kenya, which that is such a cool thing that she did.
Which is real. She does that.
She does that. Yeah. And she's even said in her interviews, which she talked about in one of the interviews in the doc, was she wants to eventually dedicate herself to philanthropy.
Yeah.
So it all makes sense, you know, and just how she is such a huge advocate for mental health. But that also felt forced, which was unfortunate because, you know, she's taking her time and, you know, like, I feel like Selena Gomez is actually a genuine person.
Yeah.
So it was really confusing to see her in this light.
Painted so poorly.
Yeah.
On her own documentary.
On her own documentary. I feel like Raquel was the star of the show, which was really annoying for me.
There was one point, and I really want to find the clip. I hope we can pull it up at some point. But one of the parts in the Kenya piece that really was confusing to me was she was asking these girls, and what she had done is raised money for a school that was for young women to get a higher education, right? And provide, you know, had their own careers.
Right.
And so she was talking to these young women, and at one point, a classic, and this is the thing where I don't even know if this was a question that she genuinely wanted to ask, or the person doing the documentary asked her to ask, you know? But it was all about like, what do you guys think about love or like boyfriends or something like that, right? And these are like high school age girls. So like, I guess normal-ish.
Inappropriate or anything.
Yeah, not inappropriate, but she asked her about that. And one of the girls answered and was like, hey, you know, I want to wait till I get out of school, and then I'll find the person that I want to be with, you know, where I can stand on my own 2 feet and like provide for myself, and then it works. A very
great
solid
answer for a young
solid
woman.
answer. Yeah, a great answer. And they panned back to Selena on it, and she just had kind of like this like annoyed face about it.
Almost an eye roll.
Yeah, which was like, I don't know if that was cut poorly, if that was from something else, but it did not feel like that was the face to respond to that answer.
Almost poor editing.
Yeah, that's what it felt like to us.
Yeah. And there was that other scene too where she gets into a fight with Raquel. She was doing interviews, promoting it was for her new album, right?
Yeah, like a ton of interviews after, what was the big song that came out? Lose You to Love Me.
Lose You to Love Me.
But then she did the album literally after, there was an album that came out after that.
Yeah, so she was doing press for it, and Raquel wanted her to go to a friend's birthday the night that she flew back from London, and the following day she had to shoot the music video. And they get into this argument, just kind of fighting about it. I saw both sides. I feel like Raquel maybe wanted her to be social because she felt like she was being really down, but Selena was saying, I need my rest though too.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a rift between the two of them.
And to be fair, if you don't know who Raquel is, good, because we don't know either. So this girl is essentially someone that is her best friend, and what it feels like on the show, but definitely feels like in the documentary.
She's an author. She's also works on her Selena Chef show.
Interesting.
She has a podcast too.
This Raquel girl.
Raquel, yeah.
I've never heard of her in my life.
I had to do a little bit of. She's all over her Instagram feed, so they definitely seem like they are good friends.
Okay, fair enough.
But still.
Fair enough. She got a lot of time on the documentary, and at times looked better than Selena. And it was weird. I don't know. I have so many questions, so many weird things that happened on this documentary. I was so confused.
Yeah. And Selena said that she's only seen it once and she doesn't plan on seeing it again. And she said in the interview before the doc came out, she did an Apple TV Plus interview too. And she said that people had been asking her, what if people are going to want more after this? Are you going to be willing to give them more? And her response was, more? I feel like I gave everything in this documentary. And I feel like that's not true, just because we had so many questions at the end of it, so many unanswered questions. And me and you talked about this too. She had a Rolling Stones interview too, right the day of the release of the doc too. And that had so much more detail. She talked about how she couldn't get out of bed for days, weeks, months at a time, and was really struggling with her mental health, contemplating suicide for years at a time, where she didn't really touch on that in the documentary at all. We did see her in bed a lot, but she didn't really
go into the depth
that, no, it's not that I'm just tired. It's I'm dealing with lupus. I'm dealing with my bipolar disorder. I'm trying to understand my diagnosis. There's just no details on that. She even mentioned the Rolling Stones, that she had this concept that she had to be married at 25. She'd grown up with that concept in her head. And when she hit 25 and was nowhere near that, going through a terrible breakup with Justin Bieber, that was really hard for her too, just adding to that pressure. Also, how some of the medications that she's on, she might not be able to have kids. So just a lot of things where I feel like I was learning so much about her. She opens up about her parents too, a lot in that interview, about how her dad didn't want to have anything to do with the industry and he was a more absent father. So it really was her journey with her mom throughout everything, because her mom had wanted to be an actress when she was young. So it was almost, putting her into those auditions.
The classic, hovering parent, the show parent, the pageant mom.
Right.
And so that,
I think that's why I was so excited too, because reading that interview, I was like, wow, we're going to learn so much about her and really see her in these situations. But honestly, I would just recommend reading that interview.
Well, and we didn't hear anything about Haley.
No.
And the one time we heard about Justin was when they were talking about Lose You to Love Me, that song coming out. She pivoted, she at first was gave a very vague answer about rediscovering herself, which is true, but very broad. And then she quickly skirted over my relationship, that helped me move on. And then one day I just didn't care.
Yeah. That's what I was
saying. But that was all
Hailey Bieber really didn't even need to do that interview. But
no. And that's where what pains me so much, especially because Selena Gomez has produced 13 Reasons Why, has been on multiple shows that have done really well.
Only Murders in the Building.
Obviously is an amazing actor or dancer, singer, performer. I just couldn't imagine, it made me so upset that was what we put out for her.
Yeah.
That's what
which sometimes these documentaries really do flop.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just feel like I've seen other documentaries, especially on singers and performers, that have been done much better.
I think a lot of backlash too was with Francia, the woman that had donated her kidney a few years back. And
there's a picture.
Yeah, there's just one photo.
From a photo or from a newspaper.
And that was the only time that even really came up.
They didn't even talk about it. It was more or less just here's a news clipping of my battle with lupus. And
they grabbed a clip from that interview that I was talking about, the Apple TV Plus interview, but not even in the doc. But she talked about how she never really felt like she fit in with the cool girls, and her only friend is Taylor Swift in the industry. Not mentioned.
Who also wasn't mentioned or wasn't in
the doc.
Well, Francia was barely in it within a picture, and then Taylor wasn't in it at all either.
So, I feel like we got a very little part of her life.
Yeah, and what we did get was very, I would say, a bad light.
Yeah.
Of what it could have been.
And we're not saying a bad light because she was struggling with mental health.
No.
That has nothing to do with it. It was just
the way it was edited and
poor production. I don't know. No shade on the producers, but
well, it's even you and me have days where we're tired.
Yeah.
And pissed off and cranky. It's they showed that part.
Yeah.
It'd be always showing when you're really pissed. And it'd be okay, why am I the only one that's pissed in here? And then the times that it was supposed to be genuine, it felt so scripted that it took away all the genuineness of her relationships.
Frustrating.
So weird.
Definitely frustrating, but I'm still a fan of her. I mean, all of the music that was playing, I was like, play it longer, play it
so
longer.
Embarrassing. I
was embarrassing.
Yeah. I do think that she is a great person, and I totally believe that everything she's doing is very legitimate and she's not a fraud.
Yeah.
I don't think of that at all. I'm just more or less mad at Apple and whoever directed the documentary and produced it. How did we botch this
there
so bad?
There might need to be a part 2. She said there's not more. There might need to be a part 2 with maybe a different maybe go Hulu or Netflix.
Yeah, holy shit. But we were on a reality TV kind of kick, documentary kick, because also today, this was released today, but we watched or listened to and watched
Back to the Beach is a podcast with Kristin Cavallari and also Stephen Colletti, which we know them from Laguna Beach. And they've been having this podcast where they kind of talk about that show. And for the first time, well, Kristin mentioned, I've been wanting to have Lauren's perspective on so many things. So now today is the day that we got that, because Lauren Conrad came on
the show,
and they talked about the love triangle between the three of them, because back in high school, Stephen had dated Kristin and then broken up with her, and then had also dated Lauren, and they were all kind of in this little triangle of liking each other. But they really talked about how that show was honestly scripted, and they grabbed one little piece from their life and just really emphasized the fact that they were in this love triangle, when really they said they squashed that beef before they even started filming. And Steven had talked about it in the past too, in a past episode, that he didn't like how they portrayed him because it almost made him seem like he was a cheater, when in reality he really did date them separately at specific times. There was no overlap. So he said that was frustrating, but it just comes to show that reality TV just holds on to any storyline and runs with it, and it's not necessarily true, which I think we all know. But I think when we were watching it back then, it felt so real. Like when you watch the Kardashians, all that felt real years ago.
But none of it is. I really enjoyed it. Even though there wasn't that much tea necessarily that was spilled, it felt very nostalgic. And it also, because there wasn't a big riff, like it wasn't like there was the drama that was painted for them, it almost felt wholesome that they are like more or less friends. That they like didn't, and they were able to laugh at themselves, which I think was very funny. And it wasn't like they felt in that moment that, I feel like this a lot of times, like with Jersey Shore or the Kardashians, that everything is still reality TV for them. Even when they do interviews, it's very like staged and for drama. Versus there, they felt very candid about, and obviously they're not nearly as big of personalities as they were 10 years ago. They're all very successful, but they're not like on reality TV
in the limelight
anymore.
all the time. I think they also talked about when they look back, it's almost cringy for them. They're like, it's pretty embarrassing. Like, I see an insecure girl when I look at myself there. And really the only juicy part, I feel like, was when Lauren Conrad said, I'm sorry for calling you a slut in Cabo. And that she did address. And she's like, today I would never call another woman a slut. That's not even in my vocabulary really anymore. But I apologize to you now today. And Kristin's like, thank you. I said some really dumb things back then too. So I'm sorry for that. So they had those little moments that were cute.
I think also the one part that was interesting was Lauren was saying, and she was kind of viewed later on as the villain. You know, a lot of people like originally when it came out liked her, and she was kind of like the same. Kristin was like the bad, girl. Was that Lauren was like, I noticed when I like, cause she didn't really rewatch a lot. She said that in the thing. She's like, I only watched.
Tell too. I feel like Steven knows every single episode by heart. He's like, oh yeah, and then you went on that date with what's his name?
But she was like, they always edited me as like not saying anything and like look like overlooking like everyone else. And she's like, I look like a freak. Like, why am I looking so weird and all that? And Steven said the same thing. He's like, I don't have a lot of scenes where I even say anything. And it's like very weird because I did, but they just like kept me to these sound bites of like, I would say 3 words. And that would be like the cliffhanger of the show, right? Was, well, love's a tricky thing. And then like it would cut to, like music or like looking at the beach. And
next on Laguna Beach.
Exactly. And then also the idea that they said too, that Lauren like was just told that she's going to be the narrator that first season. And then Kristin was the narrator the second season. Because then it looks like everything's coming from their perspective. But it was funny, they were talking about being 18 years old. They just were like, these are adults and they're persuasive. And they had no idea that they could push back versus when they did the Hills, it was very much more like, hey, I'm not doing that or I'm not saying that or etc. But I totally know what they mean when if somebody's telling me I'm going to be on TV at 18 years old.
Yes.
And pay me.
Probably.
I'm like, whatever.
Because Lauren said that she gave a lot more pushback. And
in the Hills.
I don't know if that's from age, probably both age and experience of doing it, knowing how to talk to the producers now after being on a show for 3+ years.
And I the cringiness of, there was this idea, I'm sure when it came out, because I watched it, which was, these girls and guys are so cool, like Laguna Beach. And Kristin was talking about how she missed the day actually that they did castings like at the school and how like she was like, I will do anything to get on the show. Just like that very like, if people came to your town and we're from MTV, and we're like, we want to have people on.
Right.
You would just do it. Like, you would do anything to be on the show, right?
I would do it today.
That's what That's what I'm saying. But like, that's something that people don't usually talk about with reality shows. It's like, oh, you just get plucked. Just kidding. Same thing with The Bachelor, Bachelorette, all these things. They are auditioning on purpose to go be on TV. And so it's like, you would do that too. And that makes it feel much more relatable that these girls and guys weren't just like, oh, these are the coolest people. Yeah. You know?
And it was cute too, because Lauren says she still lives in Laguna Beach. She has
the only
her husband.
one. Yeah.
Her 2 kids are there with her. She loved growing up there, so she wanted her kids to have the same thing. Yeah. So it was a nice little nostalgic, but also tying it into her present day too.
Yeah. I mean, she still like a crush for me. Celebrity crush.
I know. Fangirling over her.
I love Elsie. But that wasn't the only thing. This was a weekend for releases and like everything coming out. Her Loss came out. Drake and 21 Savage's 21. What's your rap, man?
Yeah, they just came out with their new album, Her Loss, like you said, on Friday also. So just a lot was happening over the weekend, but it was good. I love it. I'm already a Drake fan. I feel
we know, from past episodes, anything that Drake puts out, you like.
Yeah.
But this album, I'm usually not a huge Drake fan, and this kind of, I'm coming back around.
Okay, good.
Welcome. But also, did you know ahead of time? We didn't really know this album was coming out. I feel like there wasn't a lot of press beforehand. We'll get into the press that happened almost afterwards.
Yeah.
But I love this idea that it went Certified Lover Boy, Honestly Nevermind, Her Loss. Crazy. I don't know if he knew that as those albums were coming out, or if like it just naturally flowed that way. Because in his life, we don't really see him with,
I feel like,
having a girl. Like, he's never been, or at least not that we see. Like, he talks about heartbreak, but it's never public.
Right.
So like, that's kind of like, I don't know that he was like, all right, now I'm on my, I'm back. Because I don't know if that's a thing, but I mean, the disses were
a lot of disses. He went after Megan Thee Stallion in the song Circo Loco. There was one line where he says Stallion in it, and then he talks about how she's lying. So he was alluding to the fact that she lied about Tory Lanez shooting her in the July 2020 shooting, which obviously that pisses Megan off because she's been very adamant that this did happen and that people keep calling her a liar. So the fact that line was in there, so she came back and tweeted at him just like getting all pissed off. But then some people were saying that might not be what it's about, that maybe it's just women who lie about getting plastic surgery or getting BBLs, Brazilian butt lifts. So that was the other theory.
I don't know.
Either way, all of these disses and everything is just bringing more and more to the album because so many stories were getting published about that one. And then also he threw a diss at Serena Williams' husband, calling him a groupie, which totally forgot that him and Serena Williams had a little bit of a fling in 2015. What?
Yeah, that's really odd to me.
Yeah.
But also it was kind of annoying because with them having a full-fledged family now, he just took it in stride. Alexis Ohanian or I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he was just like, yeah, I'm like her number one fan.
Yeah.
And like groupie. Like he knew it's like what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Also, in his own right, he founded Reddit. So he's doing pretty good.
He's doing just fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think people were mad about that though? Specifically the Megan Thee Stallion one. They were just saying, are these lyrics harmless or screw Drake about this? And I feel like people always talk about things in songs though. And it just, we get a lot of press on it when it comes out and then it blows over. It's not that big of a deal.
I think that
people have said worse things.
Yeah, completely. But given this album, I don't know why, but it's like Drake's like in 21 has kind of been this way forever. Like he hasn't really changed, but I feel like Drake kind of flipped the switch and was like, like on some demon shit or something.
Good.
No, I love it. Yeah, I think it's great. But I'm just saying that those types of lines I wouldn't take
to heart.
I would.
Oh, you would?
I would say that there's more truth to them than not. I mean, he disses Kanye in it.
And he's not going to address them.
No.
He's just going to let it be. Let people believe what they want to believe. You want to be a hater, be a hater.
He disses Kanye in it. He disses, there's a rapper who's a girl.
Okay.
He disses her in it, who people now think is the baby mama of his son.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
Talks about Kim in it. Like, and that could have been, I think that's the Kanye drama, but just like talking about girls putting on Skims now thinking, like acting like they're Kim and just stuff like that. Like, I mean, I think he's just
not a bad diss though.
Not a bad diss. Not like at her, but like at the same time, like don't glaze over it.
Yeah.
But then they did a bunch of promo. They did a bunch of press for the tour. Or not for a tour, just for the album.
Yeah. One of them was a fake SNL parody, which this was funny because Michael B. Jordan was the one that introduced them. And people thought that was even a diss at Lori Harvey because...
It definitely is. That's what I'm saying. Like, this stuff is... I don't... Like, Drake's not dumb. Mm-hmm. And, like... These are real things. So basically what happened was they fake that the SNL set where usually it's like, you know, you have the crowd and then somebody does the intro. The intro was played by Michael B. Jordan. He says, in the most relatable album of the year, Her Loss. And it's clear that Michael B. Jordan is talking about Lori Harvey, which we covered earlier this year about how down bad he looked at, I don't know if it was the Knicks game or if it was the Atlanta Hawks game.
Yeah. He was at an NBA game, basically crying.
And they like showed him like for his or like showed him in the crowd, you know, like celebrities be in the crowd. He's like,
because he broke up with her really at the end of the day. Well, he did because, well, at least I feel like he did.
No.
A lot of it was he wanted to get married. He's 35, she's 25, and she didn't want to get married. So he's like, okay, well, I want a future. So maybe it was a mutual breakup, whatever you want to call those. But he's saying her loss.
Heart never breaks
her
even.
Loss. It doesn't.
So that was wild. And then they go on to perform looking like it's the SNL stage, even though it was totally cool. Like CG. It was like a green screen.
Right.
And then they also did a fake Vogue cover.
Those were sick.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm gonna
Vogue magazine. I mean,
I'm gonna buy it.
Cover. Yeah. They're on the cover. There's even photos of him and Anna Wintour like inside the magazine.
Which I'm guessing are all photoshopped.
Yes, photoshopped. But everyone was thinking this was a real
promo.
A real promo, yes,
and real cover.
But also a real magazine that was going to get released through Vogue. And on top of that,
Howard Stern.
Drake even shouts out Anna Wintour when he posted it on his Instagram, was like, shout out to Anna Wintour and Vogue for like letting us do this. All love here. And then today or yesterday, it turns out that Vogue, or actually the owner of Vogue,
Condé Nast.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you. They're suing them now for $4 million.
Who cares?
That's nothing, but...
I feel like they don't care. That's what I'm saying.
They don't care because the promo was so cool that $4 million is whatever.
They're on something though.
But do you think that Drake didn't know that?
No, he knew. That's what I'm saying. He's very smart.
I get he's really smart, but why would he? So the shout out was kind of bait almost in a way for Anna Wintour. Do you know what I mean? Because why would you even address like, thanks for this when we didn't actually get that approval?
Build hype.
Build the hype.
Build the hype. Marketing 101. Yeah. And then the other one they did too was they did like a fake call in on Howard Stern based on like literally because he puts all his stuff on
really good
YouTube and SiriusXM and like he's asking like what kind of porn they watch. This is Howard Stern asking them if they'll ever be in love. And just like the responses are hilarious. And we know that they're both funny guys and just like I just think that it was very smart and something that other people haven't done. And I think the press almost comes even more by now getting sued.
Yeah.
Is like an even bigger deal, which is great.
Elevated even more.
Like I said, I loved the album.
I think it's a good album.
It was really good.
I was listening to it before I came over here. So
that's what I'm saying. It was awesome. But I think too, before we segue into the thing that I thought was interesting, especially going back to Michael B. Jordan and Lori Harvey, was that this weekend also was OBJ's 30th birthday.
Yes.
And so I noticed that like she was there, obviously Michael B. Jordan.
Names.
Yeah, a lot of big names were there.
Kim was there, Justin, Haley.
Yeah. I just thought I was seeing pictures primarily, not a lot of video. We did see video. And it looked like a great time. I like OBJ and stuff like that. But I just think that this? I thought it was just interesting. No, it's all good. From obviously Drake's not there. Or Drake and Michael B. Jordan aren't there, which OBJ and Drake are boys because they did Laugh Now, Cry Later. That whole music video they did together. So kind of interesting that he wasn't there. Justin was there. Justin no shirt, like the whole night in any of the pictures.
Well done.
No, but what I'm saying is, isn't it weird how he like creeps in back to like, what did they call him when he was like Bad Boy Biebs? Jay Bizzle or whatever, like when he was like going crazy.
Okay.
Back in the day. But out of nowhere he'll like be like this very like normal, I feel like normal person when he's like with Haley.
With Haley, yeah.
And then when he like goes to these parties, he's like not wearing a shirt and like just boxers.
They were grinding a little bit in the video.
Everyone, which
hey,
I'm down. But everyone else is like in their full suit.
Yeah.
And Justin has no shirt on and a beanie. Who's the guy from the Suns? He was there with Kendall Jenner. Devin Booker. They were both there. Like, it was a pretty cool crowd. I'm just saying, I thought that it was the timing, that happening had to be very like, hey, did you see this? You know, like at the party, like, don't you think that, I mean, they have to be like regular people.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, did you see that? Like on...
Do you think he wasn't there, though, because he was working on something for the album?
No,
or do you think there's some sort of...
I'm saying he definitely was, most likely.
Yeah.
But also, Drake is knowingly putting together, I'm going to have Michael B. Jordan go and do this.
Yeah.
And I also know that Lori Harvey's going to be at this party at the same time. Like, it's very petty.
Mm-hmm.
It's very petty.
It is petty.
But I love it.
We love a petty Drake.
I love it. I can't get enough. And so that's like a good segue, actually, honestly, from... And also, that's the other thing I'm saying. With the Selena doc coming out on Friday, and then them just partying and grinding on, I don't know what day it was, Saturday night.
Yeah, over the weekend, yeah. I think it was Saturday.
I just feel like, and I do not know if they watched it.
I don't think they really cared either. Bieber and Haley were not watching it. I really don't think so. They probably had maybe one of their friends, or by friends, I mean like a publicist or something,
check
just
it out
to see if there was anything. Do we need to respond?
But what I'm saying is, based on their response, both of them
kind of
like having a good old time was, hey, there wasn't shit said in that. Like, their publicist came back and be like, yeah, you guys are good.
Which probably for the best, because I just feel like that would have just brought out, why are we still talking about this?
More and more tension.
Like, we just saw Haley and Selena at that event, and they were, taking photos.
Yeah.
Was that staged? Maybe. But who
cares? At this point, let's move on.
It's their lives.
But I'm just saying, I just love the drama, the pettiness of
course.
There had to be somebody asking, like, did you see it? Or something like that.
Or did they just know not to bring up Selena anymore?
I would say definitely don't.
She does not hang in that crowd.
I would say definitely don't bring it up. But then at the same time, it's like you
We're all
said.
thinking it.
Yeah, but also I would definitely be like having some extra drinks, being like, fuck it. Like, like we're good.
Yeah, let's take a few shots that I wasn't mentioned in that documentary.
Like it's almost an extra celebration.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm celebrating you, OBJ, but also them cheersing. Being
Happy
like,
birthday, Odell. Happy birthday to me too.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly.
Cheers to me.
I just love the back. Like, there has to be like whisperings, even as celebrities, all the way down to like your regular Laguna Beach.
Maybe not to his face, but I'm
schools.
sure Kendall was like, oh, "Did you see that?"
Yeah, it's always
Devin.
Kendall.
Yeah.
Kendall is not. Oh my god! But then why do we kind of started it with sad news, and then we're gonna end it with sad news, but. Yeah. Takeoff's funeral is scheduled for...
It's on Friday at the State Farm Arena, Atlanta. But we were just talking about Bieber. Bieber's actually going to perform. So he'll be... They didn't have any solo songs together, but obviously he was mainly with Migos. So they had a couple of songs with Justin Bieber.
Technically wasn't all of Migos, was it on I'm the One? Or was it just Quavo?
What You See and Looking For You were the collabs with Migos that he was on their tracks.
But you remember I'm the One with Quavo and Justin, then... Obviously, DJ Khaled.
It wasn't Takeoff.
One other person.
It wasn't
Takeoff.
Takeoff,
I know. But it was like...
DJ Khaled,
was it
probably.
Only them? Was it only those three?
Probably DJ Khaled.
I remember that music video well.
Yeah, but his funeral will be on Friday. So...
I think that'll be a big turnout.
100%. You can actually get tickets to go to it. Free tickets to go if you were in the Atlanta area. Drake was actually supposed to have a show on Friday and announced that he's going to now postpone it because he's going to go to the funeral.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes, that's great. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just think too, it's very interesting, especially in the rap community, being like, if you throw out an album on Friday, take those shots. Mm-hmm. Like, is it not like, hey, you come to, even if it's a funeral or a party, it's like, hey, what's up, Drake? Like, if you're Megan Thee Stallion?
Yeah.
Thoughts? Comments? Questions? You know what I mean?
Inquiries?
Like, it's interesting that, like, I totally want everybody to celebrate Takeoff's life and, pay their respects and do all those different things. But it's hard to
You also want them
ignore
to be having petty drama.
No, I'm saying it's hard to ignore, like, somebody doing that on Friday. It's like, and then going to school on Monday.
Right.
Hey, no, like I heard about that.
Yeah, I heard that rumor that you talked about me in your song.
Do you want to have a conversation?
I wonder if Megan Thee Stallion will be there. She might.
I mean, why wouldn't she be? That's what I'm saying.
There.
I think that's a huge, person and name in the hip hop industry, and was a huge, like we said before, like kind of starter of a different era of rap and hip hop. And so I would think that a lot of people are going to make their way out for that.
Yeah, I would assume so.
I'm just interested to see if there's going to be any explosiveness. I don't know.
Hopefully not. Hopefully they can,
civil.
Hopefully they can stay civil for this and focus on Takeoff. That's going to be my point of view.
You've been keeping it very safe tonight. I've been kind of the one
you've
bringing
just
the juice.
A lot of drama. I love it.
I know.
I love the energy.
I'm excited. Either way, I think that's pretty much all we have.
That wraps it.
That wraps another episode. We also started putting our episodes up on YouTube as well. We don't have the old ones yet. We're working on.
We'll put some up though.
Trying to put more up, but then pretty much every week going forward.
Yeah.
We'll have
of course, Instagram, TikTok @PlayingTelephone.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.